that every year our UU Church celebrates our flower communion, a tradition that began by Dr. Norbert Čapek in 1923 at the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia. The flower communion service is a ritual celebrated by UU churches around the world. Today is also Mother's Day, and before we get started differentiating the two, I wanted to take a moment to hold those in our hearts for whom today is a challenging day. Not one filled with brunch and cards and flowers. There are those among us who have lost their mothers, who have had a difficult relationship with them, or who have lost children. Please send your loving kindness to all those who may be struggling today.
Long before Mother's Day was celebrated, Unitarian Julia Ward Howe, who also wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic, wrote her Mother's Day proclamation in 1870 as a response to the Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War, to urge women across the world to join in the cause of peace building. Her words held a radical call to create peace that still resonates today. Here's her proclamation. Arise then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, the women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm. Disarm. Following her proclamation, Howe began advocating in 1873 for the creation of a Mother's Day for Peace to be held on June 2nd of every year, but she was unsuccessful.
Inspired by her mother's work with Howe, Anna Jarvis campaigned to have a National Mother's Day holiday to honor the important role of mothers. She waged a letter-writing campaign and created the Mother's Day International Association. The holiday was officially established in 1914, 36 years after Howe's proclamation. Unfortunately, Anna Jarvis quickly became disillusioned by how commercialized Mother's Day had become. We want to honor the original message of Mother's Day here today by honoring our mothers. I'd like you to take a moment to think about your mother. If that's difficult for some of us, you may think of another woman who acted like a mother to you, or simply pass and listen to others.
First, think about her name. What was her name to her friends and family? Did she have a nickname? Second, think about what you would like to thank her for. What gifts did she give you? We'll give you a minute in silence to think about those two things. Now, We'd like you to share your thoughts with the people next to you, on your right and your left. Some of you may need to share with someone in front or in back of you. Jim and I will demonstrate sharing in pairs. So, plus I get a chance to talk about my mother. My mother's name was Bernice Irene. Her friends called her Bern. And the gift she gave me, I think, was the gift of music. She would sing every night after she turned out the light before we went to sleep.
My mother's name is Dana Mae Garlick. The gift she gave me was the example of being generous to friends, family, and strangers.
That's it? All right, so would you please share with someone to your right or your left? Or you may need to move someplace to get a couple people, some of you where you're sitting. So we're going to give you about 3 minutes to do that, please. One more minute. 30 seconds.
It's fine. Just say okay.
Okay, time's up. If you could stop, please, so we could get to the next part. I'm sorry you can't talk about your mothers anymore. You may continue it afterwards in the social hall if you wish. All right, to end this section, we'd like to try one other thing. We're going to share the names with the whole group. Names are important, and to do this, we're all going to say the names of our mothers aloud at the same time to acknowledge their presence in this room and in our lives. So on 3, I'd like you to say aloud the name of your mother. 1, 2, 3. Denise Irene. Thank you.
The same year that Unitarian Julia Ward Howe wrote her Mother's Day Proclamation, 1870, Norbert Čapek, was the creator of the Flower Communion, was born in Czechoslovakia. Norbert Čapek was born into a Catholic family. but later abandoned Catholicism and entered ministry as a Baptist. He was a very successful Baptist preacher, but his ideas began to evolve and grew more open-minded and compassion-based. He began to come under an intense criticism in Baptist circles for his liberal ideas, and even faced heresy charges, though exonerated. He felt so persecuted that in 1914 he left Czechoslovakia and came to the United States. 5 years later, in 1919, he got an idea for a relief project for Czechs, and so he left formal parish ministry. Around this time, Norbert Čapek and his family began attending the East Orange Unitarian Church. Upon discovering Unitarianism, he resigned his membership with the Baptist, feeling at last that he had found kindred spirits and the theology that the world desperately needed. Through his enthusiasm for Unitarianism, Čapek proposed to the American Unitarian Association that they support the founding of a Unitarian church, a Czechoslovakian Unitarian church. The AUA agreed and promised a stipend of $200 a month for 10 months. Čapek sailed home to Prague, and they began the task of starting at something new. They called the new congregation, this is a lot, the Prague Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship, holding their first public meetings in 1922. 9 years later, this congregation would get a new name, the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia, and official recognition by the Czech government.
In 1923, to celebrate the first anniversary of the new fellowship, Norbert Čapek wrote the Flower Communion service as an experiment in symbolizing our liberty and brotherhood. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bring people more closely together. He knew that many people in his current congregation carried painful memories of and dissatisfaction with traditional religious forms, as he himself did. So the format had to be one which would not alienate anyone who had forsaken other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to the members of the congregation.
So Norbert Čapek turned to nature. He asked that everyone bring a flower, which were collected at the door by the children of the congregation and placed in a vase. The flowers were a symbol of belonging together as one spiritual community. Then Čapek wrote, "When they go home, each is to take one flower, just as it comes, without making any distinction where it came from and whom it represents, to confess that we accept each other as brothers and sisters without regard to class, race, or other distinction, acknowledging everybody as our friend who is ready and willing to search for truth and be of service to mankind." The flower communion was a tremendous success at the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia. Čapek's wife, Maya, brought the flower communion to the United States when she came to tour and speak in 1939. Maya would not return to Czechoslovakia until after the war.
For it was at this time that the days were darkening in Europe in the 1930s. From his pulpit, Norbert Čapek encouraged his fellow citizens to have courage in the face of the growing Nazi madness. He said, "We are today the only nation in the whole of Europe that is ready to resist oppression. Confronting our descendants, we will never have to feel ashamed of the fact that as a small nation in the middle of Europe, we were ready to defend human dignity, freedom, and justice from violence, lies, and lawlessness." In 1939, Hitler's armies began their occupation of Czechoslovakia, and in 1940, the Gestapo began monitoring the services at Čapek's church. For a time, he veiled his message of freedom in biblical parables and religious double talk, but inevitably, he was arrested and all his writings were seized, and in short order, he was charged with high treason. So at the age of 72, Norbert Čapek was sent to the German concentration camp at Dachau, where, after suffering from the effects of starvation and hard labor, he died on October 12, 1942.
While not nearly as pressing as the concerns experienced by Norbert Čapek and his Unitarian congregation in Czechoslovakia during World War II, most of us have cause to be unsettled. We live in difficult times also. So what consolation of understanding of our problems today can we take away from Norbert Čapek's flower communion created almost 100 years ago? I find comfort in the fact that we are here together this morning, seeing familiar faces and voices gathered in communion and fellowship. Like a bouquet of flowers, we are more beautiful when we are together, supporting one another, and that is true for families, for churches, and countries. Norbert Čapek consecrated the flowers before his ceremony with this prayer. May these flowers remind us, amid our diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world.
We also take comfort in the fact that Heartland UU Church is a small circle of faith and is a part of a larger circle of faith that is part of the whole community of humankind, diverse in intelligence, compassion, and energy. To this end, I ask you to always, though particularly in the next week, to keep your eyes and hearts open to people, places, and situations where you can reach out and care and nurture and love, much like good mothers.
In memory of Norbert Čapek, Maya Čapek, of Julia Ward Howe and Anna Jarvis, and of every expression where the divine and human meet, we celebrate this morning's flower communion service, grateful for the gifts of freedom, community, and love. In this spirit, as the music plays, I will begin dismissing you row by row. Once dismissed, everyone is invited to walk quietly up to the communal vase of flowers and take a different flower than the one you brought to share. After you choose your flower, please move to the back of the sanctuary and begin to create our circle for joys and concerns. It's our hope that those of you at home also take this moment to gather a flower. Once in the circle, please stand in silent reflection while others choose their flowers, sharing quietly in this Unitarian Universalist ritual of oneness and of love.